get it. Man, I get the CD, I get the pack, the Amazon pack. I open it, like it's already open. I already know that. I open it. It's a Jay Holiday CD in the case.
Yo. So you didn't tell them, hey man, I got you my money back. Hey, this ain't what I bought.
But you know what?
Oh.
So all they had was a used one. So I said, okay, I get it. Man, I get the CD, I get the pack, the Amazon pack. I open it, like it's already open. I already know that. I open it. It's a Jay Holiday CD in the case.
Yo. So you didn't tell them, hey man, I got you my money back. Hey, this ain't what I bought.
But you know what?
Oh.
So all they had.
What's good with it? What's good with it, y'all? I sharing a clip from last week's live. I think I'm gonna start doing the intro, share clips of YouTube shorts from last week's interview. Now I let it play. People that's coming in, tapping in just to see in case you missed last week's episode of Live Talk Slow. If you haven't had the privilege of watching, make sure you go check it out. Check out my Live Talk Slow playlist. It's in the Live Talk Slow playlist on my channel. And also, if you're new to the channel and you come across this content, don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave a comment, tell me where you're from. And I'm gonna have a good topic today, but that was Reckless G. Super dope artist, hip-hop artist from Pittsburgh. He's out of South Carolina now. We had a great interview, we had a great conversation. And in the clip he was talking about, he had ordered a old Styles P solo album that had Good Times on it. And come to find out, he got it off Amazon, come to find out, the CD case, we got the case, it was a Jay Holiday CD. It's just a story, so I thought that was a good area. That was one of the funny parts of the interview. And it's a dope interview. Make sure y'all go check that out. It was last week. When you get a chance to check it out, it's on now. You can watch the full interview. And also check out Reckless G Music on his YouTube channel. You can find him on Spotify and iTunes. And also check out all the previous Live Talk Slow episodes. I got some pretty interesting topics. Even if it's from last year or something, you can still leave a comment and I'll still engage with you. You share your thoughts and opinions on it because, it's always new. Your content is always new to somebody that hasn't seen it. So go ahead and share it. So before we get into the topic today, I want to know what your thoughts is. I was thinking about this earlier on Instagram. If you follow me on IG, Instagram, I always post polls on my stories for people to vote and provide their input or what they think or what topics they like to hear about. And this topic had the most votes. And I got the other topics on there as well, so I'll talk about those topics at a later date. But if you still want to vote, you still can vote, and I'll look at what's the next topic that got the most votes. So in the next 24 hours, I see a topic that's getting a lot of votes, then I'll do that next week as well. And also, if you look to this on Live Talks with Low, I'm going to get this out the way. Contact me at this email that you see on the screen right here at lorettasonly1@gmail.com if you're on Live Talks with Low. Send me a bio, send me a track that you'd like me to use for the promo, and send me a picture that I can use for the promo, and we can go from there. And if I like what you're doing, I bring you up on the show. And also, if you have a business or you want to talk about a topic or it's a topic that you want to share that you think you want to shed light on, I gladly bring you up too. Just reach out to me as well. You don't have to be an artist. This is basically a hip-hop podcast majority of the time, but also I do other topics about other things as well. Just don't want to be just scripted. But mainly I do talk about hip-hop topics because I'm a hip-hop artist myself. And for the past couple of years I've been doing podcasting. I've been releasing any music. So if you have a business or anything, or idea or anything that you want to share, you can reach out to the email too and be a guest. You don't have to be hip-hop related. And also, I want other artists to know that from other genres, you can also pop up here too as well. I'm open to that as well. Even though it is a hip-hop based podcast, I like to hear music from other genres as well because I just don't listen to hip-hop. I listen to R&B. I had an R&B artist up here by the Rail Keller Scott, super dope artist out there in Las Vegas. She does a tribute show for Tina Turner and Whitney Houston, and she's the youngest Tina Turner tribute artist ever in the world. So, and that was dope as well. If you haven't had the privilege of checking that out, I did that early part of this year. Make sure you go check that out as well. A super dope artist, and if you find yourself in Las Vegas, make sure you go see her perform at tribute shows. I guarantee you in for a treat. I'd have told her, like, if I find myself in Las Vegas anytime soon and she's still doing it, I'm definitely pulling up to a show over there too. Hey Carolyn, if you're watching. So, all right, I'm gonna bring the banner up for today's topic. Let's see. Now, first, I want to ask the question to give you an idea what the topic is. How do you remember hip hop before social media? Now, I can tell you, that's what the topic about tonight. So basically, the topic is about hip hop, how hip hop was before social media. That's the topic that got the most votes. So that's the topic I'm talking about. And I'm posing the question, if you're just tapping in with us, I'm posing the question, how do you remember hip hop before social media? Now, I remember hip hop before social media. I remember hip hop being, where artists didn't have the power of social media to really pop. Now you can upload the song within 24 hours and you can post it on your TikTok or your Twitter, your Facebook, or your website. Or updates. Now you have Threads. That's the latest social media platform that's owned by Instagram. Now people can post snippets, videos, and little clips of the music and the artists that get people listening to. But before social media, I remember when artists actually had to put in footwork to go and get their music. I was a teenager, when I got into hip hop. Artists actually had to go to radio stations, do radio interviews. You actually literally had to go on a radio station, or they did over the phone interview with the radio station where you literally had to tune into the radio at a certain time to hear your favorite artist. But now, you go to Breakfast Club. They still do go to radio stations like the Breakfast Club. You got Drinking Champs podcast. You got Joe Budden's podcast. You got LeBron James podcast. You got Brandon Marshall. I forget who else on the podcast with him. Chad Cinco, Club Shay Shay with Shannon Sharp. I'm saying Shannon Sharp. Yeah, he's a place where people come on there and promote the albums now. Now podcast is a big thing. Now, back then before the era, you didn't. We had podcasts though, but you didn't call them. Yeah, people called them radio shows. But yeah, people that do a radio show every morning, they have for every hour they have a radio show like the Tom Jordan Morning Show. I grew up listening to that. If you're from Tallahassee, Florida, like I am, that's 96.1. You had 100.7, 102.3 The Beat. Blazing Hot 102.3. They had radio interviews, so the artists come to the studio or the radio station to do the interview, or the VJ would go out to where the artist was on the set. So people actually had to be live on location back in those days. But now you have it where you have virtual, like I'm doing now. People use StreamYard. I use StreamYard or YouTube or Instagram or TikTok. People going live. People do virtual interviews where they get the artists to go virtual, where you're doing an interview, the artist on the call with you in the same room. But back then you had to literally same, and probably further back, you had to really be in the same room, or you really couldn't do a phone interview. No, the artists actually had to come to the studio. And yeah, Want to See Support. Yeah, shows like Want to See Support, where artists appear on, had to promote their album, debut their new music video, because that's when I first heard about 50 Cent on Want to See Support. He was sitting on the couch with AJ and Free, and he debuted his album, not his album, but his single, Wankster. And then when I heard that song, he talked about a story. He got shot 9 times, but then you really had to have a story. And you had to introduce her, so you really had to put in footwork back then compared to now that you don't have to do interviews or necessarily have to go to certain places. Now you can do it from your bedroom and do it on the internet. You can do everything on this thing. Now, you figure out how to use this and get people connect with this. Hey, that's the game though. But I mean, now I think it's more saturated, but I'm going to get into that later. But from what I remember is artists actually passing out flyers, seeing flyers posted on the light poles. I grew up around a college campus. I grew up, I went to FAMU High, so even from 6 to 12, I went to FAMU High. So I remember coming up, I always could tell when a new artist will have an album out because they had the flyer with the album cover on it, say album dropping soon. You see them all posted on the light poles, all on the stop signs, all over campus. You see it all posted all over campus that this artist got an album coming out or going to be in town at such date. So back then, there's a lot of physical copy marketing. There's a lot of paper marketing, physical marketing like newspapers, ads, Thoughts on Trump. I mean, I ain't really talking about Trump right now, but I appreciate you coming in, Willie Wonka. I mean, that's another topic, but I could definitely talk about that. If you like to come on another date and talk about that, we could definitely talk about that though. But I got a lot of thoughts about him, man. They ain't positive, I can tell you that. But what I'm talking about today is how do you remember hip hop before social media? And how I remember it is, I remember, like I was saying earlier, artists coming on, actually going out. They had to go out and by word of mouth to put their stuff out or to get their promo, or artists actually going to visit different and perform at different shows and opening up for other artists. Actually had to do that back then to get your music out there because you had the internet, but the internet wasn't like in your face at your fingertips like it is now. Earlier I the phone, like now you go on your fingertips. The artists get on here, go live wherever they at. And people tap in and tune into them, and post their music, whatever. Post their, hey, I got a song coming out. You post on social media, boom, 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 boom. Everybody liking and sharing it. It still work, but it's a little more easier than it was back then. And it's a little more physical. I can remember because I remember artists passing out flyers, or they had promo teams coming around campus. Like I said earlier, around campus, I grew up going to the family football games, the home games. I always remember you couldn't walk around no more somebody trying to get a flyer in your hand. You got a flyer in your hand, or somebody sticking a flyer in your car of a show or of a concert coming out. So, and also, I remember that back then when the artist had a new album coming out, either they appear on One Sister Apart, or you see a new music video from them, or you hear a radio, you see them do a radio interview, and they debut on the radio. But I also remember when they had commercials. When you watch BET or MTV and you watch them in the videos, you see a commercial of the album. They had commercials. They had commercials back then. I'm that old. I'm telling my age. I'm that old, so I'm 37. So I'm blessed to see 37. I turned 37 back in May. And if you grew up in the same era I am, or you're on the same age I am, you can remember seeing commercials of your favorite artist, new album coming out. They had commercials. They actually had commercials, just like they had commercials for Madden and 2K now. You don't see now, but back then that's how we had to rely on it. Either you heard on the radio a new single, or either you had to catch it, because sometimes you didn't catch it. Now we got Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, Pandora, we go straight to YouTube now, or we got Instagram can tell us like, oh, such and such just dropped the track 24 hours ago. Now we go listen to it. But back in the day, either you knew somebody that had a burnt CD, or if you had somebody who had the internet, had DSL, because back then they didn't have high speed at first, and they had DSL or had Napster. I don't know if somebody see, I'm telling you my age again. They had Napster, or what's the other, Rhapsody, you could download on the computer. You could download music, they might have had it online, so might have had it on the CD or something. Or you just, or at the radio, just to your favorite radio station, they might say, hey, at this, we're going to debut Nas' new song, or Trick Daddy new song, or whoever new song out, and they actually allow on the radio. They still do to this day, radio play still is prominent, but now as it's shifting towards, not reading social media, I'm seeing like more things shifting towards playlists more. Like the playlists on Spotify and Apple Music and Tidal, all the popular playlists are the thing. That's the new radio now, coming new radio now compared to how it was before social media, where artists had to go on the radio station, they had to do TV commercials. So what I do remember is, like, back then it was a lot more money to break an artist. At the time I didn't realize that, but when I started studying, the entertainment business at Full Sail, I was getting my master's in recording arts, getting my undergrad and bachelor's at Full Sail. I started learning about how things was much differently back then for what I saw. As a kid, I'm seeing it like, oh wow, they got all this money to put all this stuff in. Got to do TV ads, got to do radio ads. You got to do flyers. You got to do newspaper ads. So you got billboards. Billboards is a big thing. Before they had the digital billboards, you had the billboards, big Lamar billboards. You see the billboards at the time. They put that up. A new artist got a new album out. Or you get a flyer to such album coming out. Or word of mouth. That was a big thing. And that was the biggest form of marketing. And to this day, word of mouth still is a great form of marketing as well. If you ever get a chance to read the book, Why Things Catch On, Contagious, Catch On by Jonah Bergen, you should read it. I got that book, and it's a great read. I'm probably going to read it again because it's a super dope book. reminds me when I'm talking about this, it reminds me of talking about that. So for my take is, I think hip hop before the social media era, like the artists put in more footwork to get their music out or to get their name out. It took a lot more than it did before, and I feel like the artists that did it then has a more bigger has put a lot more work to do with social media. Not to say they don't put in the hard work too, but they still don't put in footwork. It's still people who still go out and pass CDs. I remember when at homecoming or a football game or any event that's a big event where a lot of people be at, you're gonna go somewhere, you're gonna have artists trying to pass out a CD or say, hey, you want to buy my CD? You want to give me a donation? Or here a free sample CD, you get a single with the instrumental and the radio version of this single they pushing. Artists, I remember artists doing that. They put that on you or give you a flyer, hey, go download the music, or hey, want to buy my CD, or they leave it in the windshield of your car. So back in those pre-social media days, I think I guess the artists enjoyed a lot more of the footwork. That's what I saw. And also, I feel like people had more conversations back then too compared to now. Everybody's on their phone now, so like if an artist do a song or this artist will put out a song or you got a new song coming out, hey, check out a new video, somebody sharing you something. I mean, it's still word of mouth, but it's a different form. Back then we going to school, we look forward to going to school the next morning. Hey, you checking out a new song by such and such? Hey, you heard a new song? You saw the new video on one of the spot? We had something to talk about, compared to now, you still have stuff to talk about compared to now. You just can pull out your phone, everybody else seen it now. So now I don't know what kids talk about now, but I remember when I was a kid, that's how we find out about a lot of music or who had a new album out. Because sometimes you might have missed it on the TV, or you might not have seen the commercial yet, or your friend might have saw it, or somebody might have heard the song, or they might have had access to it, or somehow got it offline or something, and they download the song and they for burnt CD. I grew up at a time where burnt CDs was a thing. You want to get close to somebody who could burn CDs. You want to have somebody who had a computer that could burn CDs. And you want to get with that guy, he'll come up with new music. So you heard new music that way too as well. So back then it was word of mouth. So what I'm getting at is I think during that era it was more word of mouth marketing than anything. Because somebody's going to tell it. More so now it's just digital. It's just more digital marketing. But back then it was more physical marketing. That's the difference that I see now compared to now. And yeah, conversations, everybody talking about it. Then eventually you just look it up. And I don't think YouTube came about to what, like 05, maybe 04, maybe 05 or 08, something like that. YouTube wasn't a thing back then, and MySpace didn't really get popping until like my senior year of high school. So that's like the pre-social media right there, but you still really consider that social media. But when I'm talking about social media, I'm talking about the finger. But I feel like the music was, some would say maybe music, I feel like artists might have put a little more into it, a little more. Not saying they don't do now, but I feel like music back then, you really had to have talent. And you really had to push your stuff out there and put your stuff out there. And you really had something that was unique to catch people's attention, because people ain't going to listen to you because nobody going to talk about you. So I think back in those days, people relied more on word of mouth marketing that, hey, if I go out to this town right here, pass out a couple of my CDs, I'm opening up for a show, if I'm opening up for somebody locally, or I'm a local artist, opening up for this major artist that come out here, people going to find out who I am. So back then, artists had to get out there. And also, what I also noticed that now we live in a social media era. It's like we almost have almost instant access to your favorite artists. Now you can comment, you can engage with them because they have a social media page. Now there's a chance they might not see your comment, but it's a huge chance they might see your comment. So a lot of times now, we see people talking shit to some artists or stating their opinion, and the artists get them and say, "Oh, you think I don't see this comment?" No. And I seen the fucker. So fucking now. And now I think we live in a time now that back then, a lot of things that I see people post on social media or say to these artists in the comments, you won't say that to their face. And that's another thing, back then, those days, you wanted to know, like, it's almost like now I think it's a lot different because now we can see parts of the artist's life. They share little details about their life, so now we can follow their life story and follow their day-to-day life more than we could before social media. Because back then, a lot of artists is like, you only can hear what you heard. You don't can believe a story where they talk about this, they talked about it during an interview, or you seen a story about it, or somebody told you a story about it. Like, you didn't really have the access that we have now to our favorite artists that we had, like a mystery still. And I think that was the big thing why we enjoyed the music so much and appreciate art so much, because like we didn't really know how they really are unless we met them in person. You want to see like DMX, TL, or Jay-Z or something walking down your block or down your neighborhood or walking around your city, unless they're still doing a show or something. Went to where they're from, or you went to a city that they was performing in, or unless they had a tour date in your town, you didn't have the access to your favorite artist, or you could go and meet them or reach out to them or or you can hit their DMs. You didn't have that back then, so basically you had to write letters. I remember when I was a kid, I wrote a letter, I wrote a rap. I tried to send a rap to Aftermath Studios. I looked on the back of the CDs. I don't know if y'all remember on the back of the CDs where you had the address. I don't know why I did it. I'm a teenager, being a teenager, not knowing any better. So, I'm thinking, hey, I'm gonna write me a rap and send it to Aftermath. So I actually did mail it. I actually got a stamp and mailed it to California. Of course, I never wrote me back. I just sent the lyrics and they'll shoot. I don't know, they maybe could have took some of it and used it. But I thought that was funny. Back then, they had the address on the CD where they had fan mail too. That's also another big thing they had too. To connect with your artists and you want to reach out and maybe drop a couple lines to them. You had fan mail, had mail club, had fan mail club. Sometimes on the CD, you look on there and say, "Hey, send fan mail here." You write a letter and you send them a letter, and you might might write you back. They might have time to write you back. So that was a big thing. That was a big thing back then. How people got in actually, even remotely, might got an autograph from the artist. You went to the show, you went to the meet and greet. You had to actually go to the meet and greet, or either you find the address for the fan mail club. Mail them, you might be lucky enough they read your mail and they send you something back, and then maybe they like what they read and they fly you out somewhere, or they let you, hey, I'm willing to meet you. Back then, that's when letters was still a thing. I grew up in the 90s and the early 2000s. I'm born in 88, but I grew up in the 90s and the early 2000s, so that's when letters was still a thing. So, they had fan mail clubs where people can write their favorite hip hop artists, send a mail. He got in contact with our favorite artists, in hopes that, what's up, man? Some technical difficulties, got knocked off online, but I'm back up. But as I was saying, the difference is that back then we didn't have the same access that we have now to our artists through the social media. We still don't have completely instant access, but you can get in contact with them a lot quicker than you could back then. You had to go to different loops. You might try to mail the studio or the record label, or it might not ever and you really had to search for the information. You know that we had internet, but you know we had dial-up. You didn't have high speed, so you had to go around. You know, go to their town where the artist at. You know, maybe hang out at the studio or something like that to get to meet them, or whatever you wanted to meet them, or you wanted to do music, or wanted to check out your music. You had to actually go to their city. You had New York, or actually go to LA. Actually go down to Miami, catch a flight. Or you know, say, yeah, that's catch a flight, or attend the show, and hopefully you get lucky to get backstage, or you do somebody, or you can somehow get in contact with their manager or something like that. Somehow get the manager's address or something, office address, and you can send them a letter like that, or somehow they got a hold of your demo. So, or if you just wanted a fan or get a hold of your merchandise, you know, you mail it to the fan mail club and they'll sign it. Another thing I could say that I noticed that happened before the pre-social media era. We had to where artists used to actually do appearances on shows as well. You know, besides when it's part, it's a video countdown show that used to come on every weekend. You knew when somebody had a new album. Like I don't know if anybody out there in the audience used to watch BET like I did, but as a kid, when I was a teen, remember this video countdown. I forget what it was. Was it Top 25 or something like that? I think that was the name of it. And I remember that I was doing a hip hop artist or R&B artist, but we're talking about hip hop. But it was always like a hip hop artist on there. And the weekend they had top 25 videos of their favorite videos of their favorite artists or videos they listened to growing up when they was coming up and making a name for themselves. And that's how I learned about a lot of music too, that way. And I learned about a lot of artists or who their favorite artists are or who they like. You know, if such and such that album, let's say JC had a new album coming out soon, they'll be on that show. They'll make an appearance on there. Or that look, and he had access granted. Watching Access Granted want to get home. I think Access Granted came on every Wednesday night or Thursday, and whoever the artist is, they have them behind the scenes on the video, and then after that you watch it. I think it came off about 30 minutes to an hour. You watch the behind the scenes, and then after that you get to watch the full video, and that's how you get exclusive to watching the video. If you stay to the end of the show, you get to watch the video, you get to watch the full video. Yes, sometimes I heard say, hey, you see the new music video, did you go to school? I see that music video. But only difference now, you know, you're seeing things updated in real time. So put a music video out. It doesn't matter when you watch it when you want to watch it. You don't have to worry about watching BET or trying to catch it when it comes on. You just can go click YouTube and search the video up and say, oh, look at new video. You know, you go from your Instagram or your TikTok or whatever, you saw the clip they posted on a social media post, say, oh, the clip of a new video, hey, I got a new video out now. You just go right to the YouTube page and look it right up. And I think before social media, I think it was much more exciting to talk about music. Now it's like we get so much music in like one day, you know, every day is like 1,000 new songs uploaded in 24 hours. So like what I noticed that's more music being put out more music being put out more than it was back. You know, back then, you know, the artists still put out music, they still work a lot, but you might not see that music for 2 years later. So sometimes we probably getting songs and tracks that it been done like 3 years ago, but they just putting the album out now because they already did such and such album, but we didn't know it. They knew it, but you know, they already had it in the studio. They just had it sitting on the data on the flash drive or the storage unit, just waiting to release on the next album. But now you're actually seeing music released in real time. So artist does a song, let's say like 3 hours ago, and that song will be up within the next 30 minutes. If they want to. They want to put it out. Or somebody can leak it easily online now because, you know, high speed internet now. You know, we had the power of the digital age. We live in age now. We have so much access to information that now we can get our hands on the fingertips like that. But back then you could do that. You had to go in and put in footwork, you know, and I noticed a lot of other things that's changed about it. So I remember a kid, you know, getting my allowance. I used to love to have my mama take me to the mall on the weekend. I'm gonna get new such and such album to come out. Whatever new album come out that I wanted, I went to go buy it with my allowance money. I know I ain't the only one who did that, you know. And if you all watch this video later on, you can go ahead and comment it and talk about how you tell me a story about how you went to bought a CD or artist. You don't have to necessarily be a hip hop artist, but I remember doing that. No, they don't have that excitement. To be honest, I miss that. I miss the excitement where you can go to Sam Goody, FYE, or Target or Circuit City. I don't know. Some of y'all might be too young to remember Circuit City, but I remember Circuit City used to sell CDs. Best Buy, Best Buy every Tuesday did $9.99. They don't even put CDs in stores anymore. I think you might see it. I don't know. Do they still sell CDs in stores anymore? I think Walmart still does. You might can find it. I remember a time, you go to Walmart, you're just gonna get the clean version, but you had to go to Target or Circuit City or Best Buy or a CD warehouse to get the split version of the CD, or Sam Goody. You had to go to a store in the mall to get it. Or Vinyl Records, if you're from Tallahassee, Vinyl, they used to have a store called Vinyl Records. The record, they had all the CDs come in, they had all the posters of the Beatles and Michael Jackson and all that, hip hop, Tupac, Biggie, Nas, Jay-Z, everybody, all the posters. So I remember you can go actually listen to the CD too before you buy it. I remember that too. There's no excitement in that anymore. Because now we have the digital age. Now we have social media. Now they don't CDs out like that anymore. I mean, you probably still people that still do release CDs, but you got to order online. You can't walk in the store or preview it like you used to. Because I remember going to Sam Goody too. All right, let me hear Jadakiss' new album. Let me see if I want to buy it. You used to go listen to it. They had the CDs that you listen to that's out right now, that's hot right now. Every artist dropped a CD like every month. You had a new artist gonna drop a CD. So you kind of knew who was going to drop a CD. And that's how that's another way you find out who new CD out. Oh, it's out now? I remember going to the store waiting on the date. I'll find it on TV. I saw the commercial. So, hey, I want to get that new CD. And I think that took away some of the fun out of hip hop. You can used to go to the store. Ain't nothing like listen to your favorite artist CD, getting it out, ripping the plastic off of it. If you're a credit junkie like me, reading the booklet, looking at the album art. I used to love doing that as a kid. I used to love doing that. That's my favorite part of getting a CD. That's one of the main reasons why I wanted to buy the CD. Even during the burnt CD era, I started getting burnt CDs, but actually I still wanted to spend $20 or whatever to get the CD because I wanted to read or who wrote the song or where they recorded it, who did what, who did this and that. And at the time, I didn't realize that was called being a credit junkie, but I always been a credit junkie growing up. I just wanted to because the cool album art, sometimes they had cool album art. Sometimes they had the lyrics of the song, sometimes they didn't, but at least they had the credits of, you can see who write the song. That's when you find out the artist's real name. You say, oh, such and such. Oh, that's his real name. That must be his real name. That you figure out, oh, that's his real name. That's who wrote the song, or that's who produced this. That's when I started learning about who produced what for what artist, and who mixed this, and where they mixed it at. They tell you the studio they mixed it at. The lyrics, or what did he really say in that verse? And then they also had thank yous. I used to love reading that too. Who they dedicated the album to, the introduction of the album. Pretty cool though, I think. And also sometimes when you bought the CDs too, sometimes on certain artists have CDs where you can get the music video on this track, or you might, I think when G Unit had the Beg for Mercy, I never got a chance to get one, but when you buy the Beg for Mercy CD, you actually buy the CD, I think a couple of lucky people got one of the chains, the G Unit chains, the spinner chains. I remember that was the thing. I think a few people got that. I remember people was talking about that, you got a chance to get one of those chains. You bought this CD or something like that. Because back then, when you brought a CD, before social media, I think it was you actually did want to spend money. You could burn it. Yeah, you could burn it, get it for free, or get it from your homeboy for like $10 or $5. Hey, just give me $5. I burned the whole G Unit Bed for Mercy CD, which I did. But a lot of times you want to CD because it came with other merchandise. You might get a sweatshirt come with it, or you might get some special collectible item, or just a simple fact to have that physical copy of it. I gotta find my CD book too. I hope I still got it somewhere because I had a lot of classic hip hop albums in that CD case. And I wish I still had the cases because, man, they're probably worth something one day or be worth some money one day. Because now you can't find them in stores, like I was saying earlier. You don't see physical copies of CDs no more in stores. So it's like you got to look on Amazon or eBay or see somebody who got one willing to sell one. And it's people that got them, they probably ain't going to really let it go. And I don't blame them because why would you let that go? Because now it's crazy. Who would have thought that a CD would be an antique, Because at the time when I was coming up, CDs was known to have the best quality. Now it's vinyl, I think. It has the best quality. And now cars don't even come with CD players no more. So it's kind of pointless to have CD players now. And now to find a CD player is like antique. I was talking to my coworker today, and we was having a conversation. She was saying when her daughter saw a CD, she's like, "What's that? Is that like a reflective mirror or something?" She thought a CD was like a reflective mirror, like a small reflective mirror. Like, no, that's a CD. And she said she don't know what CD it was, but she had CD players still in her car. And to even see a CD player in the car, that's like kind of foreign. Let's just get old. Put them in cars no more because everybody screens their music on YouTube, connect their Bluetooth, and play their music. Keep everything on their phone. Everything's on this. The music. I remember a time before doing the social media era, like I wasn't gonna go to digital. I still wanted to buy CDs, have physical copies, or actually download music. And after a while, I just said, you know what? I think it'd be cheaper to pay the monthly fee of the subscription to the music, so I can create me a playlist. So if I like this artist's music, I can create a whole playlist with just his music, or I can save the album and go listen to the album when I want to. It's a lot easier than carrying a whole bunch of CDs around or having to scribble to change CDs. See, a lot of y'all don't know about that scribble, But later on, a lot of people that's millennials like me that grew up in those times, the CD scribble, while trying to drive what red light, you got the CD book right there in your driver's in your passenger seat up front with you, and you want to hear this. Oh well, I'm listening to DMX right now, so I want to switch over, listen to Nas or Tupac or Juvenile or something. I got to switch it out. And then, some people had CD changers. Now, I always had a car with a CD changer. Like my first two vehicles had CD changers. I had a 10-disc CD changer. My Accord, I had a 10-disc CD changer, my Montero Sport. Those have been knowing me since then. You remember my Accord and my Montero Sport, a big Mitsubishi truck, SUV I used to have. Like, I had a 10-disc CD changer, so I could change CDs. So I load it up, with 10 CDs that I want to listen to, and I could switch it. So then, yeah, CD changers. I had a CD changer, so I was fortunate enough to not deal with that struggle. But when I was a kid, I remember having the CD players. A lot of times kids, like, you show a kid a CD player, they look at you like, "What is that?" I remember I had a CD player. You couldn't put it on your lap or nothing, or it skipped. Crazy, huh? We went through, and scratch it up too. You play the CD too much, you scratch it up. I remember Busta Rhymes album Genesis. I played that CD so much. I remember buying it on our 8th grade field trip at Atlanta. I had that CD. You put it on your lap and you go to sleep, it'll skip. So, buzz hit the bump, it's gonna skip. So you gotta hold it then. You had the CD players with an anti-skip. That's the one you want. The CD players used to be expensive. I don't know how much a CD player is now though, but like I said, it's before social media. Now we got this. So when your song you go on YouTube, you just need some headphones, your buds or your earbuds or your iPods or your AirPods. You put them in your ear. You walk down the street or you have your headphones in. You connect it with you want to connect it with a cord or wireless. You just go down there, play the music on your phone, have it down on your phone. You listen to it that way. You don't need a CD player now. It don't skip, but it don't have the same quality. If you're into audio like I am, you can definitely hear the difference between the same quality. Because if I hear a CD now or I hear a vinyl, I'm gonna hear the difference. And it's different in the car. It's different in the streaming. Even in the car, you still hear good quality, but I'd rather probably hear it on a CD, the CD or a vinyl. If you can hear it on a physical copy, I think you get the best quality there. But now, when we live in that social media, digital age, nobody really invests too much in physical copies. But however, vinyl is still making a comeback. So Get you a couple of vinyls if you're into that kind of stuff. Bitch, I'm gonna get me a vinyl player. I can look a couple of vinyls myself before they come obsolete. Because I hear they got the best quality, and I heard it. Going to other people's house and they play vinyl. I was like, dang, this sound completely different. The vinyl, I think that's the closest you're gonna get to the studio quality that actually came at the studio that someone actually intended for you to listen to. I really think that vinyl was what they kind of wanted you to listen to. How you didn't want you to listen to the music. Back then before they had CDs, CDs was just like a smaller part of the vinyl. Back then, CDs was like the best quality that you could really get. Close to like if you did get a vinyl player, you want to get something that you want to be able to carry around, which will be portable. You get your CD. But now it's vinyl coming back. So we still have some things that was there before the social media era, but not as much. We have a lot of things that we can no longer enjoy. And, I wish the youth now that's coming up now could experience those things that I was able to experience growing up. Because I think that created made you more excited to your album. It's like it almost felt like exclusive. You had something exclusive almost. Other people could buy it. Maybe their parents weren't gonna buy it, or their parents weren't giving them money to buy it, or maybe they didn't. Maybe their parents they didn't want to let them buy it or let them listen to it, but my parents did. So I had an album, and sometimes you might have this album like nobody had. I remember having Get Rich or Die Trying. Now everybody had an album. I remember borrowing albums from each other, or hey man, let me borrow that so I can burn it. Somebody let you borrow the CD and you burn it. Back then they had the anti-piracy thing against burning CDs. I remember they had a commercial talking about it's stealing. Don't burn our CDs. It's called stealing. When they had a commercial for that, and back then I think that was a big felony. You got caught burning CDs. That was a felony. So really, was doing something illegal, but people did it. As long as you weren't making a big thing. I remember going to the flea market. You go to the flea market, you can go get your CD, or get you some burnt CDs, or get you some movies, because they had that Music Man though. But I think if you're gonna tell us like I am, I don't know if y'all remember the flea market though, but I think they eventually shut that down though, because they somebody told him he got caught because that shit illegal. That's a big time felony. So I don't think that place is even there anymore. But I remember the flea market. Flea market used to be a big thing on the weekends. They had a tattoo shop in there. They had a place where you get your grills, you get burnt CDs. That's when I first brought Dark as Hell is Hot. And then I went later on and brought the actual album from I forget the name of the place. My dad used to order. My dad used to order his CDs. I remember as a kid, he used to order his CDs, and I think one day he showed me something. Said, "Hey, son, you can order some CDs. You order like 10 to 20 albums." And I ordered quite a bit. I think for some type of price. I forget how much it was. I think it was like $50 for a certain amount. I don't know, they had some kind of special going. I remember that's like some of the CDs that I ordered. Like I think I ordered like a whole bunch of I think DMX CDs that I didn't have. Because I brought Grand Champ. I remember buying Grand Champ out of the store. I actually brought Grand Champ out of the store with it. But y'all was saying earlier that I missed it. I can go in there and buy CDs, and actually get the physical copy and rip the plastic off and look at the booklets. But that's pretty much how it was before the social media came. Not saying digital age is not cool. It's dope now that you can actually see your artists perform in real time. Get more behind scenes things in real time, so they actually going live while they might be recording a song, or they might be just chilling or getting ready to perform on a show, or show some footage on the show and they live. You never know. So now you get to see things in real time. You get to comment and engage with the artists and engage with the comments, and you're getting feedback. They're getting feedback from the fans in real time about whatever content they're putting out, which I think is cool, to give people to feel like, oh, I got some kind of access to them, because back then, like I was saying earlier in the pre-social media era, your favorite artists kind of mysterious. You didn't know who they are. You didn't know. You knew who they are. You might do some things about it, but you didn't know what their manner is now. But now you get an idea of the outside look at what their personality is. And even then, you still don't really know who they are until you actually meet them or be around them. So I think that's the pretty cool thing about having things with social media now, that we had that could. That's it for me tonight. And I hope you guys come back later, comment later if you like what you heard. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And make sure you check me at my website at www.therudersonly.com. And I'll be back next Wednesday, same time and place, 9 o'clock p.m. Same time and place, unless I say otherwise. So I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. Peace.